Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sofa Sports News Football Show, brought to you by the FNX Network and Delta Plumbing Services. I'm joined this evening by my good friends today, Mr. Dan DeLuca.
Evening, Harry.
How's it going, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. Not bad for a Monday.
Good, good. And returning is the fisherman, Mr. Alavi. How are you, sir?
All right, I'm good, mate. You well?
Yeah, not too bad. See, you've had a nice haircut, looking
Thank
presentable.
you. Yeah, bit
Mate.
like Rooney in the background.
And a big warm welcome, back by popular demand. Tim, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Evening, chaps. Very good, Harry. Very good.
Good, good, good. Right, we're going to kick off this week's show with our Your View question. At the top of each show, we put out a question to you, the listeners, and give you the chance to have your say on the topic. And this week's question is, can Wembley ever feel like a home for Tottenham? DeLuca, I want to start with you on this one, seeing as you are the only Tottenham fan on the panel. What do you think? Can Spurs turn Wembley into some sort of home?
No, it's rubbish. Wembley's rubbish. The town's rubbish. The tube journey's in rubbish. They had a drum. A drum. I felt like I was at Molyneux. They had a drum making noise out of speakers. We don't need that. It's like living in rented accommodation when you know you're going to move out. I think it'll get better as games go on. Like, I went to a new pub for the first time. When I've been there 7-8 times in a row, then maybe it'll start to feel like a routine. But it didn't feel like a Premiership game. It felt like we were there for a cup game and then we lost, which made it feel even more like that. So yeah, it is what it is, and we're going to have to make the most of it. And I think it will get better as games go on. But it just doesn't feel right. The whole day it's not home. It's not home at all.
Just doesn't feel like home, I guess. Alavi, what's your take on it?
Yeah, like you're talking about a team who won, what, was it 17 out of 19 home games? So it's a shame if they can't replicate that form at all. Look, they've got a bad record at Wembley, so I don't know if that comes into it at all. You know, like bad omens. I think, what is it, 2 out of 10 visits, Dan? So it's not been great there, has it?
Yeah, it's one win since 2008.
Look, people say it's only sort of, I think it's 5 meters more in terms of length, but at the end of the day, that's like a 400 meters square difference. So it does add up. And when you're a team like Spurs who rely massively on high pressing on a much larger pitch, then obviously you have to tailor that on that larger pitch. You know, you press too hard too early and you're going to get picked apart. Now, all right, Chelsea didn't necessarily pick them apart, but it's not necessarily going to work. I guess the only other point to make is, as good as 90,000 is when everything's going well, it can probably feel quite flat, I would imagine, if sort of the first 10, 15 minutes don't go your way, because the players are sort of looking like, come on, this is Wembley, like, why is it flat? So I voted no for that reason. I don't think it's an excuse for professional footballers, but I did vote no on the poll.
Tim, as a neutral like myself, what is your take on it? Do you think Spurs can try and at least make the best of the situation and maybe put the whole Wembley thing to one side for a little while?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to, really, and I think over time they will build some momentum in the stadium. But blimey, if they'd beaten Chelsea, then it would have helped them, tenfold to get that going a lot earlier. But I think, yeah, they've got some work to do, and I agree with some of the earlier points. It felt like I was about to watch an FA Cup game. Obviously, I watched it from home, but it just had that feel to it. And I think if you lose that Premier League feel, then again, it's another mental element that the players have to handle. And if the record, isn't good in those types of games, then it can, definitely bypass into Premier League games as well, I'd say. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they will get there, but I don't think they'll ever be able to truly call it home.
Yeah, well, I guess it's only for the one season, and I guess a stadium feels like home when you start winning things there, when you start making memories there. So it really depends on what kind of.
You say for one season, but we all know when Daniel Levy gets a phone call in April and the contractor says, you know what, you can stay at Wembley for another year, but we're going to build your stadium for like £11.50 cheaper. He'll take that, and we'll be stuck in there till 2021. Maybe it'll feel like home then, but yeah, look, just I'll put up with it like everyone will, but it was weird. The first 20 minutes was really, really slow. The atmosphere was a bit nervy, a bit like a cup game. And then after about 25 minutes, you started to recognise people who sat in the stand, like at White Hart Lane, and you could see where they were sitting, and it was all smiles. And then we started to get some songs going. They're scattered around. What they did at White Hart Lane is they've moved everyone to an equivalent stand. So you're sat very near to the same people you used to sit with. It took a while for everyone to sort of find their feet. The second half, the atmosphere was really good. But then that was Chelsea. And what I saw on the way to the ground at the ground was a lot more younger kids, a lot more fellas taking their girlfriends. I mean, if you're listening to the show and you take your girlfriend to the football, I'm sorry to say this, but I mean, just hang up the phone now. Go and dry some dishes. There was too much of that going on. So you've got those pockets of people there for the day out who are going to go once or twice a season. They're not going to be singing the songs. So the atmosphere's got to come from less people in a bigger space. So I think we're going to feel that in games. Like next week, we got Burnley at home. I just said at home. There you go. Answer my question. We've got Burnley at Wembley Stadium, sponsored by EE. So we're just going to have to improve. We're going to have to adjust the way we play. We didn't play that badly actually, but the whole day is going to take some getting used to for the fans, and I think it's going to take us a little while, unfortunately.
I did say that to you though on a previous show that you will fill up a stadium with tourist fans, as I like to call them, the wives and girlfriends that don't normally get to go, the young kids that don't normally get to go. You're going to get that. That's part and parcel of having a bigger stadium, and you're going to have that at the new Spurs ground as well. So for me, that's an issue that will continue. One of the comments we had on our Facebook group when I put this poll out today was from a regular listener, Nick Nicolau. He says, the atmosphere is shit. Somehow the bad performances last season will always play on the minds of the players. Having said that, Spurs played very well yesterday and pinned Chelsea back virtually all game. Spurs missed a few good chances too, but Chelsea took advantage from a free kick. It's another defeat at Wembley, and personally, I think it will plague us for as long as we're at Wembley. It will never feel like home. So that's Nick's take on it. Let's move on now to tonight's game. We've all just finished watching Manchester City and Everton, and it was a tremendous game. Let's talk about the main talking points. Kyle Walker's red card. Alavi, I know you thought it was a red card straight away. Has your mind changed having seen the replays?
Sorry, I mean, first of all, I don't know when you're going to admit to taking your girlfriend to football, now wife, for the last few years, but we'll skip past that and go to
hold on.
Walker.
She's been to 3 League Cup games, which are of zero significance, to be honest.
All right.
And that's because no one else would go with me.
Well, all right. Well, now I'm embarrassed, Harry. I'll take some abuse back, because when I first saw that challenge, I genuinely thought it was a red card. I don't know if it was because they were so close together, or I just looked at sort of Kyle Walker giving him a look. I'll try not make a call as soon as I see it, so I don't get the advantage of a replay like a ref does. And I did call it as a second yellow. Like, yeah, I hold my hands up. Now I've seen the replay. It's a really strange decision. Even worse when you see Guardiola showing the fourth official how he's obviously seen a replay, and then he's gone and shown the fourth official exactly how much force there was. And O'Leary's doing the same to Fergie in the crowd. So, yeah, it was really soft. And, yeah, unfortunately, it changed the game. I'm almost glad City got an equaliser, to be honest, because, you know, at least some justice was done. So, yeah, no, not a sending off. Not a sending off for me. Definitely not a second yellow.
Tim, what did you think of the whole incident?
Yeah, for me, I agree there as well, that it wasn't a second yellow in my eyes. I think when the camera panned to Guardiola, it was that exact level of force that Walker used. It wasn't too strong at all for me. And I think you can leave that alone without bringing the cards out. And then subsequently, when he was sent off, it did change the game. And then from there, it panned out as it did. But I also agree as well that with it being 1-1, it kind of made it fair, because I think the ref had a bad day at the office today, personally.
Yeah. DeLuca, I know you were infuriated by the decision.
Yeah, look, this might sound wrong, but to me, a second yellow card has to be worse than a normal yellow card. You're telling a player you have to leave the field of play. And guess what? You can't play next week. To me, there's got to be something more than walking backwards into someone who's gone down. I was disappointed with that. I was more annoyed with the second one, which I'm sure you'll come on to. But referees have been around long enough now to be able to tell when a player has genuinely been knocked over and a player's making a meal of it. When they go to these training camps, wherever they go for like 6 months, and you get some fat retired referee, not our friend Mark Halsey, I'd like to add, who's a top bloke. But you get like a fat retired referee teaching them how to do this and how to do that. They should have psychologists in there making these people know how to spot when someone falls down. I know what it looks like, and I've only played park football. Yeah, all right, I was awesome, but it doesn't matter. You must know by now when a player has gone down naturally, when he's making the meal out of it. That's where referees should be focusing their efforts. To tell someone to leave the field for that challenge, I think is a disgrace. I really do. And it's just a shame that City can't appeal because it's 2 yellows. There's nothing Man City can do about that, and Kyle Walker will miss the next game.
Well, I don't think it was a second yellow card, and I don't think he deserved to be sent off. But you can, in the referee's defence, if you glance over, you can see Walker having a look at the player. And I don't know if that's what's made the referee give it. You know, maybe he's missed the actual clash, but he's seen him look over. He's seen perhaps the intent, and that's the reason he's given it. Who knows? Anyway, the second one, Morgan Schneiderlin. I mean, that was outrageous. That wasn't even a foul, was it, Alavi?
Yeah, I mean, he takes out his trailing leg.
After
he
gets the ball.
But you don't seem to mind any fouls if they get the ball first. I don't get that. Like, if you get the ball, it's still about what you do after. It is like, look, we have the benefit of seeing a replay again and again and again. But even though the refs, you could say, he's had a shocker, there's been something in both challenges that has made him think. So if you're the player, why do you even give the ref that opportunity? That's what I don't get. Like Kyle Walker did it, and the same with the Everton player as well. But why give the ref a chance?
Alavi, surely if you make a challenge and you get the ball first, it's not a foul. I mean, unless it's dangerous play, which that certainly wasn't, then it's not a foul. Surely, I don't understand what
you can't, because if you can't take away someone's trailing leg. So regardless of whether you make a challenge, you take the ball or not, if you take out their trailing leg, it's still a foul, isn't it? So why is it now not a foul?
By the rules,
he's won the ball
no.
No. I think the rules don't say if you win the ball first, it's okay whatever you do after. There's nothing in the rules to say that.
But they don't say that if you take their trailing leg, it's a foul either.
Like you can win the ball in a dangerous way. So I accept that. And I agree. Like, so you take Harry Kane's challenge. You take Harry Kane's challenge against Newcastle last week, where he did win the ball, but it was quite a robust challenge and a bit of a scissor tackle. I take the booking for that.
Yeah, that's a yellow. Yeah,
I take the booking for that. Schneiderlin's today, I personally didn't feel it fell into that category. Walker, yeah, he gave the ref an opportunity by doing something silly. Schneiderlin, I think he's made an honest attempt to win the ball, and he's won the ball. And momentum follows you through. Then you've got to decide, is the leg trailing because Aguero's left it there? You start opening cans of worms. It was Darren Bent who invented the trailing leg, by the way, if anyone wants a bit of trivia. But I didn't feel there was anything in that challenge that warranted a sending off. The fact it was so late in the game means it didn't really matter. But again, that's another player who's going to miss a game of football next week. And I didn't feel it was necessary at all.
But Dan, is this because I disagree about this whole second yellow needing to be worth more. Like a yellow is a yellow. Like if you make 2 bookable offences, you're off. Why does this second matter more? Like it's like the whole video tech thing. Like why is this second yellow mattering more? Because it might lead to a red.
I think a second yellow is a bigger decision. To me, if you take cautions for what they were intended for when they were first brought into the game, it was essentially this yellow card is your last warning. And if you commit a challenge like that again, and this was normally after 100 fouls, like or whatever, it's like your last warning. At the point you're putting someone in the book, you're almost like identifying they've made a bad or dangerous challenge or a series of challenges. But when you're asking someone to leave the field, to me, it's got to be something more than what Kyle Walker did, surely.
Yeah. Kyle Walker, fine, yeah.
And Morgan Schneiderlin, I just don't happen to feel that was a bookable offence. I thought it was a pretty decent challenge.
Yeah, I agree.
Although I think with the Schneiderlin one, a lot depends on how the ref has seen that. Whether he's got caught up in the emotion of the home crowd. You're never going to take that away from a human being, which is why where people talk about videos, that's the one advantage it gives you, because a video has no emotion, but a video still got a man controlling it. But I just think if the referee saw what I saw, I can't believe he'd have pulled out a yellow card for that, surely.
Tim, what did you make of that challenge?
Yeah, I think for me, in terms of challenges, as long as you win the ball and it's done in a safe way, then yeah, feel free to take the man. You know, I'm a big fan of that. I think there's not enough of that in the game anymore, to be honest. I don't think it was a yellow. I think it was a great tackle from Schneiderlin. And Aguero, he's not helped the ref either. He's gone down a little bit, you know, a little bit of theatricals in that for me. So I wasn't too happy with his reaction, but no, it wasn't a yellow. He's been unfairly dismissed there.
Yeah, it's 3 to the vote of 1.
Oh, you're turning into them. They like a different brand of football to me. They like rugby. I'm more of a Barcelona fan.
You should go to the ballet if you want to see elegant moves with no challenges. Like I can understand your point about dangerous challenges, but that wasn't dangerous.
No.
Football's a contact sport. You're going to have contact.
Cahill's was dangerous. You wanted a yellow. Kane's was dangerous. All right, fair play. That's a yellow. All these challenges, like
the only challenge I've seen this season that to me was 100% red card.
Oh, Noble, yeah.
Yeah, that was a disgrace. Like that, you don't even need to debate it because
we're gonna come on to that one in a little bit, guys.
Right.
Let's go back to the standout fixture of match week 2, which came from Wembley. Spurs 1, Chelsea 2. A stunning free kick from Marcos Alonso put the Blues in front. And a strange own goal from Michy Batshuayi, or however you say his name, levelled things on 82 minutes before Alonso struck again and broke Spurs' hearts. Dan, you were at Wembley yesterday and you've spoken a bit about what the atmosphere was like. But what did you make of Spurs' performance?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a good display. I thought we had a really slow start, about 20 minutes of not an awful lot. And then when we got into the game, we didn't really look back. We was aggressive. We tried to attack. We tried to go through the middle. We couldn't get through there. We tried to go out wide. We didn't have the final ball. In terms of performance, apart from finding a final ball and putting away a chance or two and a bit of rub at the green, I don't think we could have done much more in that respect with the players that we've got in our squad. Defensively, we were relatively comfortable. It was Groundhog Day when we play Chelsea at Wembley. We tend to play well and we get punished by a spectacular goal. And then we shoot ourselves in the foot. We get back into the game a bit fortuitously. And then we shoot ourselves in the foot with some really basic defensive play. A little bit out of shape because we made a couple of subs by that point to get into the game. But mentally, there has to be an issue there. There has to be an issue where we continually make these kind of basic mistakes that we wouldn't make against other opponents. There's got to be something in that. It can't be a coincidence. Like I've mentioned it before. I think I wrote an article about it. In fact, I know I wrote an article about it because I dug it out. But about Hugo Lloris's big game mentality. And it is a problem. Hugo Lloris doesn't make mistakes in games against lesser opponents. But in the big moments, he does it time and time again. And I think I was really pleased in one sense that after we scored that goal, the players seemed to be hungry to get the winner.
You didn't score a goal, mate.
I cheered.
Chelsea, I thought it was Chelsea 3 Spurs 0, but whatever.
Oh, well, we'll take no points. I'm happy with that. Yeah, it was pleasing to see us really go on and push for the win. But you've got our goalkeeper. He's our most experienced player. And he should know if you're going to spring a counter-attack like that, you have to get that throw correct. And you need at a minimum to have your defenders back in position. He's overthrown the ball. Wanyama is not the best ball player that we've got in the side, is he? He's miscontrolled it. The defence is out of shape, and it's all gone wrong from there. And then to let it through the near post like that added insult to injury. So that was a shame. I'm disappointed in Hugo Lloris because he's a senior player now. He's the captain. I expect him to carry us through their moments. Everyone looks at Spurs and says you haven't got a player who's got experience or has won anything. Maybe so, but there's enough experienced players in that dressing room now with international caps under their belt, hundreds of Premier League appearances, Champions League finalists. There's enough players there to be able to lead Spurs through that and say, do you know what? 1-1 was a good result here. We'll take that. We'll have 4 points from 2 games and we'll move on. So I was disappointed. And the last thing I'll say about the performance is I've said pre-season, everyone was saying what the Spurs need to strengthen, and I said it's the defensive midfield. Everyone looks at our defensive midfield like it's our best position. We haven't got to worry about it. That is our weakest area in terms of if we're going to push on. And Dyer, I would have sold him when the money was on the table. I stand by that. And I think yesterday proved that. And on a bigger pitch, the only difference between a bigger pitch is the weaker players will get found out. I've said players should be good enough to play on a bigger pitch. The ones who will struggle are the ones I expect, which will be Ben Davies, who's not good enough at that level, and Eric Dyer, who's not good enough at that level. I don't think he's a top player, Harry. I really don't, and I never have. I think he's a good, useful squad player, but he's not good enough when compared to what we need.
That was a sending off as well, right? While we're at it.
Yeah, I think you could give that as a red card, and no one would complain too much. I don't think.
Alavi's like the tackle police.
No, I don't like studs on shins like you. Like we just like different football. Do you know that's not football? Like you can't be risking breaking players' legs. Like you can't tell me that's not a red.
I was the one that said it was a red straight away. In the group.
But you support Arsenal, so I'm like discounting anything you say about Spurs.
I'd have no,
you had Keynes as a red, like. Even I know Keynes wasn't a red last week, but yeah, come on, that was a red. Come on,
I'd have no issue if he got sent off and I went home and watched it on Match of the Day. I'd understand why. Again, I don't think it's the worst challenge in the world, but it's a dangerous challenge, and I think it was an unnecessary challenge. And Dyer does that a lot. My issue with the 2 central midfielders, we have not got a box-to-box midfielder. So when Wanyama and Dyer, it needs to be one of the two.
Yeah, but
you can't have them both.
Isn't that why the likes of Eriksen and Ali are allowed to go and play and have an impact on the game? Is that not for their benefit? The fact that you play with 2 defensive midfield players, does that not play into the hands of Dele Alli and Christian?
No, so I've got no issue with the formation. I've got no issue with the 2 defensive midfielders. But if you're going to have 2 defensive midfielders, one of them needs to be better than the 2 we've got. So I prefer to have Wanyama because he's an enforcer and he can break up the play. But neither of those players are good enough on the ball. Neither of them can break forward to join the attack when we need to. So, like, Kante, he can get the ball. I know he's the best one, so it might be unfair. But he can get the ball and he can run forward. Neither of those 2 players do that. So it's not enough just to have the 2 sat there all the time.
Yeah,
we need to have someone who's better than that. Or I would prefer to have Harry Winks than Dyer next to Wanyama because Harry Winks can play the ball. He can look after the ball. Dyer and Wanyama, you've got 2 players in your midfield who can't play the ball. That's too many in a midfield that essentially has got 3 men in it. 66% of our midfield can't play the football. It's not enough, and we'll fall short in games like yesterday against top sides.
Yeah, fair point. Guys, while we've been talking about Spurs and Wembley and everything, a lot's been made of the pitch size. I hear that all the time, constantly. I hear it from you guys. I hear it when I listen to even the likes of TalkSport. I hear fans calling in, complaining about the pitch size. Tim, how much of an impact do you think that actually has? Is that something Spurs just need to shut up and get over?
Oh, I wouldn't say so because I think at the start of every season, managers across the Premier League are given the decision on what they want the dimensions of their pitches to be. And I think if you train in a certain way, and I know that certainly at United, our training pitches, be it the AstroTurf, the indoors or the outdoor grass pitches, are cut to the exact dimensions of Old Trafford. And I think if you play in that way, then your managers plan to play in a certain way in accordance to those pitch dimensions. When you go away from home, you play a little bit tighter if it's a smaller pitch. You know yourself, Highbury, one of the tightest pitches the Premier League's seen. And Arsenal were amazing on that pitch because of its size. Obviously, the quality in that squad, they could play away on any size pitch, but it certainly played in as a factor, and I've heard many managers mention it. So I think, yeah, it's if it's more expansive, which it is, than White Hart Lane, I think some players might have to acclimatise to that as well. Up against teams who are more used to playing on larger pitches, and you're going to your home pitch and playing against teams who should be on that size, then I think it factors. Yeah, it doesn't feel like your home ground anymore in terms of the Astro and the grass.
Okay. Do you think we're just not giving like Chelsea enough credit, to be fair? Because the only things we've spoken about the Spurs game is just size of a pitch and that Spurs were a bit disappointing. Like Chelsea still out of nowhere with like everyone criticising them, injuries. You know, you think Costa's gone probably for good. Obviously, Hazard's injured, Pedro's injured. So, yeah, he was probably forced into a more defensive sort of midfield, but that did squeeze Spurs out. And I know I texted you guys earlier saying they had something like 2 out of 21 or 23 crosses successful. I don't know what that actually means, but I was just looking at it. I didn't feel that Ali or anyone could really get on the ball because of those three quite defensively-ish minded central midfielders. One was almost a centre-back. So I don't know if we're just not giving like Conte enough credit, because he's been under criticism and he has ground out a 2-1 away win against a team that a lot of us put in the top four. So, you know, I think they had something like 30% possession, 32% maybe. All right, I know he's Italian, so he's used to defensively grinding out results, but I think we've got to look at the other side as well. It's not just about Spurs. Like Chelsea did well, to be fair to them.
Yeah, of course. I think Chelsea do deserve plenty of credit. And Ruud Gullit actually made some really interesting points today. I don't know if anyone read his article.
Oh, the BBC one, yeah.
Yeah, it was about the Catenaccio system. I don't know if I've pronounced that right. It's a tactical system in football with a strong emphasis on defence. And in Italian, it means door bolt, which implies a highly organised and effective backline defence focused on nullifying opponents' attacks and preventing goal-scoring opportunities. So you guys a bit of research today.
Yeah, so is it the one where you just rely on your 1 or 2 chances to score, don't you?
Yeah.
And then you want to take, incidentally, Gullit is a great pundit.
Gullit
is the best pundit.
He's class.
Is the best pundit.
He's up there. He's up there. The reason I brought up the pitch size was because I decided to look into this today. And whilst the data wasn't available for this season's pitch dimensions, I managed to pull something from the back end of last season.
I know the answer to this. The answer is last season, Hull City had the biggest pitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jumping the gun a bit, the Luca.
Right. This is my point. Yeah.
Stop waggling your finger.
No, because I'm furious. Hull City had the biggest pitch, right? Spurs went there last season, and we won 7-1. We won 7-1. So stop talking. It's nothing to do with the pitch size.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Let Harry have his moment.
Go on, sorry, Harry. Sorry.
This is what I'm trying to say. People will be shocked when they hear who the smallest 5 pitches are in the division. They're not the ones you'd think.
Anfield.
The smallest pitch was Stoke, Bet365 Stadium. No one would have thought that. Crystal Palace and White Hart Lane were joint next. Then Everton's Goodison Park. Leicester's King Power came after that. Now, would you believe that Bournemouth's pitch last season was the same size as the field of play at Old Trafford and the Etihad last season?
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's what I mean. These are the kind of... People make such a big point about pitch sizes. And we look at stadiums and we think, like, I would have said Bournemouth's pitch is the smallest in the league. We're deceived by so many silly things like just camera angles and God knows what. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic. And this one's for you, Tim. So Manchester United continued their impressive form with another 4-0 win. This time the victims were Swansea City. 3 goals in 4 minutes put the game beyond doubt, and it was another impressive performance from United. Tim, last time you were with us, you tipped United for the title, and I'm assuming your mind hasn't changed. What aspect of United's game was you best pleased with?
I think for me, it follows on from the first game. The pace that we have now in the final third, in comparison to, I'd argue, maybe the last 2 seasons, where we've struggled in that department. I think that's what impressed me. I know it took us a bit of time to break them down, and the flurry didn't come until the last 10 to 8 minutes or so. But I think for me, it was a speed and attack. When we get the ball and we break it up in the defensive mid position, we've got so many players now who can make these spurts forward. Mkhitaryan, again, he's shown a lot more quality in terms of assisting this season than I thought he might. But yeah, that was it for me. Our pace in attack and the transition from defence into attack from the wings is what probably impresses me the most at the moment.
Okay, and obviously we've seen Anthony Martial come off the bench twice now and score. Does that just show you how much strength and depth this United squad have? Definitely. I think Mourinho's had a word over the summer. I don't think we're going to sell him. I know there's been a bit of interest from Tottenham, apparently, but I don't think he's going to go there. Don't worry about that. Levy seems to have lost his checkbook. I won't worry too much.
Telling me he's spending it on this glass tunnel that you seem to have brought in. But yeah, I think definitely for me the mentality's there. He's come on, done very well, and if that continues, he'll be knocking on the manager's door and saying, "Want I starting ahead of Rashford?" So we'll see. But it's great competition, and it'll only improve the squad.
Tim, can I ask you about one player?
Yeah, go for it.
Pogba. Now, has he changed over the summer, or? And this is probably my opinion, he was actually better than people thought last season. He did do this at times, but because of a price tag, everyone just had such high expectations and dismissed him. Because I only saw the highlights, admittedly, but he just sort of puffed his chest out and sort of thought, "I'm taking this game by the scruff of the neck." Swansea's not a nice place to go, and I'm sure Dan will testify to that. So yeah, just your opinion on Pogba, really, because it's an unanswered question for this season so far.
There's 3 things I'd say about Pogba, spanning from last season into this one. I think the Pogba that we had last season was definitely affected by the price tag, the pressure, the crazy advertising campaigns from Adidas that were shown before the Europa League second half and start of games, which I just thought was crazy. The emoji advertisement that was flashing around Old Trafford. I mean, that just can't be helping anybody. So I think he had that pressure, and it showed at times. Also, secondly, I don't think he had the players around him. By that I said players. Matic. I don't think he had that. And I think as well, a lot of people had seen these, 5-10 minute YouTube videos of what he'd been doing at Juventus, all crammed into that short space of time. And people were expecting that as soon as he turned up to United. But his goal scoring ratio wasn't that high at Juventus, to be honest. And I think people expected, maybe a 15 goal season. Maybe that's a little bit high, but certainly more than he returned in the end. But I think now he's got this freedom. I think last season he had it in the locker. He showed at moments, but I think this season we'll really see a more relaxed Pogba, a more expressive Pogba, and someone who really, take the game by the scruff of the neck at times with Matic next to him.
I must admit, one thing I hate in football is people who judge players on a YouTube 2-minute video compilation. That is one of the most annoying things in the game at the moment, and that's something that the modern game has brought to us, and I can't stand it. Let's move on from Manchester United now. Arsene Wenger out seemed to be the general reaction from Arsenal fans all over the world after the Gunners suffered their first defeat of the season at Stoke this weekend. Jesse's debut goal for the Potters was enough to earn them their first victory this season, and it wasn't long before the Wenger out mob had taken over social media again. Before I give my thoughts on this frustrating defeat, DDL, I know you took issue with some of Wenger's post-match comments. you want to let the listeners know what it was that got under your skin?
Yeah, I did take issue with his comments. It was a very typical Arsene Wenger post-match interview. And he actually answered one question pretty well and then let himself down again. But the first thing I would say is to the Wenger outers who are listening, Wenger's in. The season has just begun. So you shouldn't be calling for the manager's head again after 2 games. You tried to out him last year. The ball didn't have it for whatever reason, and he didn't resign for whatever reason. So he's there. So it's not going to help. Wenger out. Arsenal will lose a football match again. They'll probably lose a few. Wenger out after each game isn't going to help anyone. So 2 games in, I think is very, very poor that we're back to that so soon. Especially, it wasn't the worst performance. I thought the Leicester performance was worse. It just shows how a result can change people's opinions. But early in the season, you should be looking beyond results, to be honest, and see how the side are performing. So that's a bit silly. He wound me up, Wenger, in the interview because, well, you sent me the full quote, but he made a ridiculous comment. He didn't get a penalty, okay? It was a foul in the box. It should have been a penalty. He didn't get it, okay? He didn't get a series of 50-50 decisions as well, so I get him being disappointed. And I think the goal being 1.5 millimeters offside has obviously tipped him over the edge. So I can understand his frustrations. But why did he have to resort to bringing up stats from last season that didn't mean anything? Because that, to me, that is Wenger all over. He always believes that it's something else. It can never be him. Wenger why does Wenger know those stats from last season? Because he's probably spent the whole summer looking for reasons why this mess isn't his fault. And he's been waiting for the first opportunity to wheel it out. And there it was. It came. Forgetting the fact that refereeing decisions last season has kept the guy in a job. Referees kept Arsene Wenger in a job.
How have you worked that one out? He didn't even make the top 4. So how have refereeing decisions kept him in the job? I don't understand that.
Well, he wouldn't have made the top...
Finished about 10th if it was... Yeah.
He wouldn't have made the top 6 if it wasn't for some decisions last season. We forget the fact that the goal in the FA Cup final was like a handball and shouldn't have stood, or Man City had a goal in the semi-final disallowed. He's completely disrespecting the game of football in its entirety if he's going to wheel stats like that out. It's an absolute shambles. It reminded me, sorry, I just finished. It reminded me of last season after Liverpool beat Middlesbrough, wasn't it? And Wenger missed out. He started talking about the turning point of the season being when Koscielny was sent off against Bayern Munich. They were I think they were 17-1 down at the time. He needs to stop it. He needs to stop it. If he doesn't want to give away so many penalties at home, that's what he said. We gave away more penalties at home, more penalties against us. If you don't want to give away penalties at home, then coach your defenders how to tackle, where to stand. Get Steve Bold, give him a shake, stop him slumping over the seat, and get him doing his job. Because Steve Bold, he's a disgrace to look at. He's literally, they may as well take the dugout away. They can give him this sofa, and he may as well sit in that slumped over it. Shambles.
I think
Harry, he said just before he turned around, Wenger, and said, "I've seen it, and it's 100% onside." Now, what sort has he got the same seat that he's got at the Emirates? Where
First of all, you've often been on this show and you've said that you admire the fact that Mourinho sometimes takes the media spotlight off of his players' poor performances and puts it on himself. Now, if you don't think that Arsene Wenger is doing exactly the same thing right now, you're naive.
But he's just told an outright lie. That is
what Arsene Wenger is doing.
But he's looked at a decision and he said, "Oh, I've seen it, and it's 100% onside." He is 100% a bellend for coming out and saying.
Mourinho told us when he crumbled at Chelsea that it was because his computer broke during the week.
Well, it might have broken.
What's that got to do with it? The point I'm trying to say is Wenger is deflecting the attention of his players' poor performance. He has every right to complain about that foul on Bellerin at 0-0. That was a penalty. Wall penalty.
It's like Mustafi's sending off. That should have been a sending off as well. So we'll take those two as equal, yeah?
Mustafi's tackle was not a sending off. Oh. You want to send people off for flipping, shaking hands at the end of the match the way you're going. Unbelievable. I think you're just card out. If you was the referee, Alavi, we'd be playing with 6 and 6. at the end of the game.
I've heard Arsenal fans say that could have easily been a sending off, honestly.
It'd worry me, to be honest. It'd worry me if Alavi was the ref, because by the time he's sent, the pitch will definitely be too big for six-a-side.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd have no chance.
Dan, DeLuca, the last penalty you agreed with was in 2006, so I don't think we can...
I like some extreme violence before I'm pointing at the spot. I've got to be honest here.
Look, at the end of the day, Lacazette was offside. So I don't know what Arsene Wenger's seen there. But in his defence, there's no doubt about it that officials have guessed that. They have guessed that decision. It's not humanly possible for a linesman to make that call. It is literally, shit, I'm in trouble here. Let me put my flag up and hope for the best. So you can understand why he feels hard done by. I guess my issues with Arsenal is, you know, I sat here last week and I praised him. And I said, you know, we were short in defensive options and he done the best he could and so on and so forth. But this week, there's absolutely no excuse for it. Holding, Mustafi and Mertesacker were all fit. All centre-halves. Yet he still opts to start the game with two left-backs in the heart of our defence. You're just asking for trouble. You know, Granit Xhaka had a horrible game in the middle of the park, giving the ball away constantly. But if he's going to sit there with Aaron Ramsey, the headless chicken, then he's going to be exposed. I mean, I posted a picture of Aaron Ramsey's position on the Facebook group where he was when Granit Xhaka lost the ball that led to the goal. The geezer's playing like a centre-forward. Like, you can't have Ozil sleeping for 75 minutes, Aaron Ramsey refusing to acknowledge his defensive responsibilities. If that's the way Wenger wants to play it, Xhaka will be exposed away from home and against the better sides every time. Combine that with the fact that we've got makeshift centre-halves, it's a recipe for a disaster. And it brings me on to the sale of Gabriel. Like, I actually think he looked a far better player in the back three and would certainly do a better job than sticking two left-backs there. So, I don't know. If I was Alexis Sanchez, mate, get out while you can because nothing's changed.
Why have you signed a wing-back? Like, not played him there? That's what I'm not quite...
Apparently, we've signed him to play centre-back. Nothing makes sense. Like, it's so frustrating. Oxlade-Chamberlain is in the side because he wants him to sign a new contract. Hector Bellerin should be the right wing-back. I don't care what he says.
Of course he should.
He should be the right wing-back.
I think just 2 points I want to make here. Wenger used to be a leader. Now he's a follower. The reason he signed Said Kolasinac?
Yeah. Don't ask me.
Get in.
Actually, Kolasinac.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Actually.
Well, all right, I'll have it by next week. I think the reason
Alavi would have called him Kolarov or something.
I would have sent him off, to be honest. He runs a bit fast.
Right, he signed him because he's seen what Azpilicueta has added to Chelsea, right? So he's trying to do a similar thing, which makes sense. It makes sense to a degree. A lot of sides who play three at the back have now got a guy who can convert to left back. So when you attack down the right, everyone slots back in. I get it. The issue Wenger's got at the moment is I don't think he knows what his best formation is anymore. He's confused. He's almost been forced to play 3-5-2 and it worked for him, but it's not really true to what he wants to be doing. And now he's in a place where he's not really sure. And it's going to take 3 or 4 games again this season to find it. And look, you should have teams ready pre-season, but it is difficult to replicate that competitive edge in a pre-season game. And the other point I wanted to make was linking back to Pogba. What you said about Ramsey, for me, identifies how good Pogba was last season and when I noticed, because you're comparing two players who are attacking midfielders naturally, and to play outside your natural position takes a lot of discipline, a lot of footballing intelligence. And last season, Pogba did that. He had to play deeper than he'd like. He didn't go running off like a headless chicken, like you said. He sacrificed himself for the team, and now he gets his rewards. Aaron Ramsey is a number 10. That's Aaron Ramsey's position.
Aaron Ramsey's a donkey. That's what Aaron Ramsey is.
He is a donkey, but if you raced him in a donkey derby, he'd have number 10 on his back. He's a number 10. You can't play him at number 6 and number 8 and expect him to do a good job. He's not in that. He is not at that level intelligence-wise to be able to slot back into that position. And that for me, when I see Pogba this season playing more advanced and performing, I respect him a lot more for what he did last season.
Harry, does it not remind you of Arteta a bit? Do you remember when Arteta used to just get look worse than he was because he was so exposed? I feel the same about Xhaka. I think he's taking criticism he doesn't deserve.
Yeah, I agree. And
that's a first.
Granit Xhaka is sloppy in his play at times, and sometimes I feel like he tries to play that killer pass too early. Tries to play a ball over the top, and it's just not going to work. But he is exposed, and anyone that plays in that Arsenal midfield is exposed. And when you've got 3 centre halves behind you, you can kind of get away with it a little bit, like we did at the back end of last season. But when you've got 2 left backs and a centre half behind you, then you've got a problem. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. This guy has left 2 of the 3 centre backs we had available out of the team. One of them out of the squad completely. Like I don't know. I don't see the logic in it.
You got to bring Mertesacker on, surely. He
should have started. If he's fit enough to be on the bench, he's fit enough to play. And yeah, you want to drop Holding because he had a poor game, but now's not the time to drop him because you haven't got anybody else. When Koscielny comes back, by all means, leave him out of the squad for a week. But not now. You're leaving us threadbare. It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Does it worry you, Tim, as a Man United fan? I take it you're not worried about Arsenal now.
Well, at the moment, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from the other alleged title contenders, to be honest. But especially with Arsenal, it makes great viewing.
Anyways, let's move on. Elsewhere in the Premier League, Southampton needed a late penalty to overcome West Ham at St Mary's. Pellegrino's side registered their first win of the campaign, and there were plenty of talking points in that one. Dan, you mentioned earlier Mark Noble's challenge. Was he lucky to avoid the sending off there?
Yeah, so bad. So bad. It was an awful challenge. And I think it was a deliberately aggressive challenge as well. It was the worst challenge I've seen this season.
Well, we know Alavi would have
move on
jail for it. So, Tim, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, what can you really say about it? It was obviously incredibly early in the season, but I don't think you'll see much worse than that as the next few months play out. So yeah, straight red.
Good, fair enough. I think we all agree on that one. Marko Arnautovic can't have any complaints regarding his red card. He appeared to people's elbow Jack Stevens. A moment of absolute madness. What was that about? You'd be if you were Slaven Bilic, you'd be fuming, wouldn't you?
He's got it in him though, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got a bit of a hot head. There's no doubt about that. That one baffled me, to be honest. And then when he pleads his innocence after, it's like, what are you doing? I think the highlight of that game though was Charlie Austin's post-match interview. He thanked Mark Noble for persuading him to change his mind on where to place the penalty. Had he have gone where he was initially intending, there was a strong chance Joe Hart would have saved it. Oh dear, Mark. Made a bit of a hash of that one. Alavi, you've spoken before about West Ham in the past on previous shows. Would you be concerned by their start?
Yeah, because, well, I dislike them, but I just feel that it takes more than what Slaven Bilic maybe thinks to just bring 4 quite good players into a side and hope that they gel together. So I think we were all probably bang on about right when we had them between maybe 8th and 10th. It looks like it's going to be nearer to 10th. So yeah, I'd be really concerned because Southampton were a team, Palace. I don't know. You named a couple of teams yourself, Harry. I think it was Southampton and Palace. You said, could look to go down. So if you're getting beaten by a team like Southampton, then yeah, there's problems, definitely.
I actually think I shot myself in the foot with that because I've been quite impressed by Southampton's performances. Crystal Palace, though, have been hopeless. Huddersfield Town continued their fine form. A stunning strike from Aaron Moy, enough to condemn Rafa's Newcastle to another defeat. And the Terriers now find themselves in the top 4, along with Tony Pulis's West Bromwich Albion. Tony Pulis will be used to looking up the way his team play the game, so looking down at the rest of the table may cause him to feel a bit nauseous. Watford also deserve a mention for their impressive away win at Bournemouth. And Marco Silva's certainly made an early impression. Speaking of Watford, Nathaniel Shalabar's decision to let the ball run and give up a clear goal-scoring opportunity made me laugh, especially when I realised it was Harry Arter that shouted, "Leave it." Just quickly, guys, because we have run over. Starting with you, Tim. Should Arter be retrospectively punished for that? I mean, ultimately, he's denying a clear goal-scoring opportunity.
I don't think so. I don't think so in that situation. I think we've all done it. I don't think it's. I'd be interested to hear what the others have to think about that. But I'm not getting involved in that one. I don't think. Just
quickly, let's go around the panel on that one. DeLuca?
Okay, just quickly, I tip Watford a 3-1. So cheers for that. Collection day for the poor in the DeLuca household. But yeah, I think it's a non-issue for me, Harry Arter.
Yeah.
If you watch pundits on Match of the Day, you'll have a forward who will dive and they'll call it intelligent forward play. Well, that's the defensive equivalent. He's just fooled him, and he's not committed a foul. I know it's technically a foul if you read like Rule 74.6 or something. Not interested. As a footballer, you should be aware of what's around you. It doesn't take much to coach your team to know what to say to your teammate if you want your player to leave a ball. It doesn't wash with me at all. I think it's it's school playground stuff. To be honest, I wouldn't be worried about that at all.
Alavi?
Okay, well, technically, it is not a foul because of the.
Okay.
We all think that because at school you're all coached to do it because some of the local leagues and amateur leagues, blah blah blah, say that it's a rule not to shout mine or leave it. However, it's up to the referee's discretion. So if he feels that it could come under unsporting behaviour, then he has to caution and give an indirect free kick. But it's not actually a hard and fast rule. It's exactly the same as going up to someone and going, "You smell." Like, that's it. It's literally exactly the same. Okay? So it's up to the referee's discretion, but obviously
Where do we find this guy?
If you go to asktheref.com, you'll find the full explanation. It's exactly the same. I know me and you, Dan, we had the same school teacher ref who lived by and died by the rules. So
he was worse. He was worse than Alavi with his cards as well.
Oh
he was worse. If you're listening, Barry Burndies, put your cards away, mate. Keep them in your pocket.
Have you boys
actually a rule?
Have you boys heard about the Carabao Cup draw? The third place draw will take place in Beijing on Thursday, 4:15 a.m. UK time. Tim, has the game gone nuts?
They had an absolute shocker with the first draw, didn't? Was it Charlton got drawn twice?
I don't know.
Someone they drew a team twice during the summer break. It was honestly, I just think it's an absolute joke, really, what they're trying to do with that. They're trying to bring in this whole kind of American style. They'll be taking draws on the moon next, that type of thing. I'm not buying it.
They're just pimping out the game, really, aren't they? When you think
about it. I don't know.
Elsewhere in Germany, Hamburg winger Nikolai Müller wheeled away in celebration after his goal versus Augsburg and ended up rupturing his knee ligament during his celebration and will now be out for 7 months. How's your luck there? Unbelievable.
Sounds like Darren Anderton.
Yeah, exactly. La Liga kicked off this weekend. Barcelona started off with a 2-0 victory over Betis. Alavi, you watched that one for us. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, very quickly. I mean, Semedo played really well. I think he looks like a decent long-term replacement for Alves. Deulofeu started to show what he can do. Messi was up front on his own. Obviously, we've got Suarez injured. Neymar gone for good. And Roberto as well. I know he's been linked with a couple of Premier League clubs. Luis Enrique sort of failed to find a position for him, but it looks as though Mr. Valverde likes him in the middle. So whether he'll be a long-term replacement for Iniesta, I don't know. Gareth Bale, obviously going on to Madrid, they won as well in a 3-0 victory. And Atletico were actually held 2-2 by Girona, newly promoted, and Mr. Stuani, who used to play for Middlesbrough. He scored both their goals. Ramos, new record, is 18 red cards in La Liga history. He's joint with Pablo Alfaro and Xavi Aguado, I think
Is
it
it
was.
that much? 18.
Yeah, 18. And then the odds for this year, if you're interested, Madrid are odds on, so 8-11. Barca are 6-4, second favourites, and Atletico Madrid you can get 35-1. So it shows the gap really. And then the fourth is Seville at 200-1. So I don't know. I fancy Barca. I think they'll sign a couple of players in the next week or so, and I think they could upset Madrid despite player for player at the moment. Madrid definitely being better, especially their central midfield.
Yep. Okay. Serie A got off to a flyer. Roma, Milan, Inter, Juve, and Napoli all got off to winning starts. Inter recorded their highest attendance in August since Inter versus Bari in 2009, which was their treble year. I think it's safe to say Milan as a city hasn't been so excited about his two clubs in a long time. A sign the league is on the up, contrary to what Mr. Alavi will tell you. Moving away from football for a moment, this weekend sees Floyd Mayweather take on Conor McGregor. Firstly, will you boys be watching live? Just quickly around the panel, DeLuca?
Nah.
Disappointing. Alavi?
Begrudgingly, even though I said I wouldn't, I probably will end up doing it whilst with tears down my eyes thinking about a Japanese flyweight show that I'll probably watch the next day. So, but yeah, I'll end up watching it. Yeah,
you'll be doing the night feed at that time. Don't worry.
Yeah,
about
exactly.
Tim, what about yourself? Will you be staying up?
Yeah. I think we're gonna get the lads together and watch that one.
Yeah, just going around the panel quickly. Who's gonna win, DeLuca?
Mayweather. Mayweather will win. Yeah.
Alavi?
I mean, anything can happen. Like Buster Douglas beat Tyson, even Bellew beat Hay, but I think it's just hard not to back someone against the best of our generation against someone who's essentially their pro debut. But you get Floyd at 3-1 on points. I think that's a decent shout, as it's the same as McGregor by anyway. So it's not a bad shout, 3-1 on points, despite it not being as likely as a knockout.
Tim, what about yourself?
A bit of a controversial one. I'm very much behind McGregor. I think he might force the win here, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll be a good night regardless, I suppose. So.
Yeah, I'm going with McGregor as well. If you have a look closely, I've got a couple of ginger bits in my beard, so I'll have to back McGregor.
But the thing is, it's so annoying because it takes away from, like, there's so many other good fights, like Golovkin Alvarez.
Well, that just shows
Gonzalez.
That just shows you, Alavi, that your sport is a joke.
But don't you want to watch the super
like
flyweight?
Arsenal? It's like Arsenal playing the All Blacks in a match.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
But there's, you're going to miss the super flyweight clash between, I don't know, Nieves and Inoue. It's a real
never heard of it.
It is a pantomime.
It is a shame. It's a
pantomime.
It's like a circus. Like we had Crawford Ndongo, like first unification in 15 years a few days ago, and now this has got now this has got all the attention. But Floyd McGregor was 10-1 favourite, and now he was 10-1, and now he's 3-1. So that's some crazy money being put on by, I guess, people like you.
Yeah, the ginger power. Right, guys. That brings us to the end of this edition of the Sofa Sports News Show. Once again, we've run slightly over, so I do apologise. I want to say a big thanks to Mr. Dan DeLuca. Thanks for joining us again.
My pleasure.
Alavi?
Yep, don't send me off. No problem.
I think you're the one that needs to keep his cards in his pocket. And a massive thank you to Tim once again for joining us. And we look forward to having you on again soon, Tim.
Cheers, chaps. Always a pleasure.
Don't forget, guys, you can check out sofasportsnews.com. You can join our Facebook page, Sofa Sports News, the Football Fan Network, where you can catch the latest posts. Follow us on Twitter at SofaSportsNews_. And a big thanks to our partners for their continued support, the FNX Network, TagPay, Stelwart, Shoot the Defence, Elite Editorial Services, Perfect Radio UK, and Nick Tanner Events, who, by the way, the former Liverpool defender Nick Tanner has recently released a book, which is on its way to us here at Sofa Sports News. And he'll be joining us on the show very soon to review his new book. So keep an eye out for that. Whether you're watching live on YouTube or listening on iTunes, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Until next week, that's all, guys.